Hello, my name is Daniel Rojas, and I just want to say thank you so much for taking time to watch or to listen to my senior testimony and taking time to listen to how God has directed my life and how Welch has been a critical part of my story. I also want to say thank you to all the faculty and staff at Welch, especially President Pinson, Mr. Morgan, Dr. Hester, Dr. Calloway, Mr. Bracey, the entire teacher education department, each of which have poured so much time and effort into me, my education, and my family. Most of all, I also want to say thank you to my fellow students that I've loved getting to know, and I just want to say thank you to my sons who have been very, very supportive and patient towards me during this process of obtaining my education. So I'll be completing studies for a Bachelor's of Science in History with my secondary education teacher licensure, I would like to take this time to also just tell you about how God led me to Welch College, about my time at the college, and how God has prepared me for the future. So first, how God led me to Welch. Well, I was about 23 when I entered into my relationship with Christ. I was married, had two sons, or have two sons, David, who's now 12, Roman, who's now 8. And after committing my life to Christ in 2013, I realized that I had really lacked so much of the foundational knowledge and wisdom about the Lord and His Word. And at my local church, which is 180 Trail Baptist in Clarksville, there were several Welch students there completing their Christian service assignment. I noticed how patient they were with my children, how loving and patient they were with me. And I just had this feeling that they were at a stage in life that I never knew. And that was a stage of a season of knowledge and growth with God through Christ. And at that point, I knew that I needed to learn more about the faith. I needed to learn more about what was true. And I needed, almost most importantly, to learn why it was true. So I was active duty Army at the time, and so I deployed shortly after my conversion, and I started taking some online classes in theology and through an online school, but I knew that the Lord was leading me to Welch at that point. Finally, in 2016, my final contract with the Army was up, and I had begun to move towards getting started at Welch. Well, a few months before I left active duty, I received orders to be a recruiter, an Army recruiter. And essentially, I either had to accept the assignment or decide to decline the assignment and risk never being able to go back to active duty again. And if I did, there would be certain stipulations to that. So after a lot of anxiety and back and forth, I finally came to this point where the Lord had been dealing with me on what to do. And through His Word and through His Holy Spirit, He directed me, and through His people, He directed me just to give all my anxiety about the decision to Him and to have faith and trust in the decision to get out of the Army and to attend Welch. And I realized at that time that it wasn't necessarily about what decision I made. It was more about me trusting and putting faith in the plan that the Lord had for me and trusting that regardless of what decision I made, that He had this. So that transition was very difficult. It was the most difficult experience in my life up to that point. Going from working full time, having a set career, to attending college, to still being a husband, trying to provide for my family, continuing to raise my sons. I had things like panic attacks, depression issues with dealing with going back and entering back into what I would call regular society again. But none of this surprised God because He knew, and He knows what He's doing, and He knew how to mold and how to shape me during that time. So going from a relatively fast-paced environment in the military with people with the same mentality or way of thinking to me transitioning from that to the West End campus with men and women who were a lot of times a lot younger than me, having different life experiences than I did, having different responsibility than I had. That transition, again, was very, very taxing. But at the same time, the Lord used that time to help me grow in His knowledge, to have an environment of Welch, an environment of peace that I hadn't had up to that point in my life. So as I struggled, I found a place of what I considered refuge, a place of calm, a place of learning and understanding and support at Welch College. So the faculty and staff were more than loving and accommodating. The content had depth, it had substance. I had friendships formed with other students and staff that really gave me a lot of hope that I needed at the time. And as life continued to be challenging for me, whether it was financially, emotionally, spiritually, personally, the Lord used people that He put in my life in the community of faith and in the community of the college to show me that the Lord had this, that He had me in His hand and that He was going to take care of me. So one spring semester, I had to miss 2 weeks. This is just an example. One spring semester, I had to miss 2 weeks for reservist training. I left active duty, entered into the reserves. And when I got back, I felt like I was really behind, that I was overwhelmed. I was stressing over missed work, midterms that I had to make up, on top of having a family. So I returned in the mix of all this. Teachers like Mr. Morgan would take their time to just personally reach out to me and to show me their support, to let me know that they had been in a way where I was at, and things like that. So also during Christian philosophy, Dr. Hester would give really engaging introductions. One time after what I would consider an exceptional opening to a lecture, he asked if anyone had anything for the group, opportunity to speak up. Little did he know that at that time, as he had been speaking, I was receiving text messages back and forth about one of my sons being sick at school. I needed to leave and go pick him up. So right after Dr. Hester had left room for any alibis to speak up and say anything, he began his lecture material. And as soon as he begins his lecture material, I gather all my stuff and I get up in front of the class and I just walk out. And if there's one thing that you don't do, it's to walk out on Dr. Hester's Christian philosophy lecture. So I sent him an email letting him know what had happened, and his response was very, very simple. He just said, "No worries. I assumed it was something of that nature, you know." But the thing is, he understood because he's a father, and and again, he had that level of understanding. So it was really moments like what Mr. Morgan had done for me, just taking time to reach out to me, what Dr. Hester did for me by showing me compassion and empathy. It helped me understand that the Lord had me, that He knew where I was at, that He knew what He was doing and what He was preparing me for. So there were other challenges during my time at Welch that I don't really have time to get into, but the Lord really used Welch to show me that He knew that these challenges would arise. He knows what future challenges are going to arise, and that He's already made a path for us. We just simply needed to walk through it, that I simply just needed to walk through that path or walk through the way that He had made. And so He showed me that through the content, through the faculty, through the students at Welch. And so the question is, where do I go now? And the answer is that I go wherever the Lord directs me to lead my children. And when challenges arise like they did during my time at Welch, like challenges arise like I'm going through now in my life, I know that the Lord has already has a solution in place, and men and women of the faith help point me towards that solution, and that He will help guide me towards the solution that He desires. So for now, I'm raising my children, and I'm applying for graduate school as of right now at APSU, and from there, I don't know. But what I do know is that because of my time at Welch, not only do I have the knowledge, but now I have the practical experience, the experience of God's grace through His people to understand that He has a plan to glorify His name and that we get to be a part of that plan. So thank you so much again for your time, and I wish you all the best of luck.